In this video, I'll give you the simplest explanation of the geopolitics surrounding Greenland. Just a day after the Venezuela operation Absolute Resolve, Donald Trump once again reaffirmed his interest in acquiring Greenland by any means necessary. Greenland, as you know, is the world's largest island, covered mostly in ice, with a population of roughly 57,000 people. It was once a Danish colony. Today, Greenland is self-governing, but it remains part of the Kingdom of Denmark. In 2009, Greenland gained expanded self-rule, taking control over areas such as policing, courts, and the Coast Guard, while Denmark retained authority over foreign affairs, defense, and currency. Since Trump first floated the idea of acquiring Greenland, Denmark's prime minister, along with other European leaders, has outright rejected the proposal. So why is Donald Trump so focused on Greenland? And does the United States actually need it only from a national security standpoint? Trump has repeatedly argued that Russia and China have increased their presence in the Arctic and that Denmark is not doing enough to protect the island. If you look at Greenland on a map, its importance becomes immediately clear. It sits directly between Europe and North America, a location that is strategically golden from a U.S. military perspective. Under a 1951 defense agreement with Denmark, the United States operates the Pitofik space base in northwestern Greenland, a critical hub for missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance. At the height of the Cold War, the U.S. stationed up to 6,000 troops across the island. Today, fewer than 200 remain. But here's the twist. That same treaty already allows Washington to expand its military footprint and increase its presence in Ireland, with little more than formal notification to Copenhagen. In fact, Denmark has repeatedly offered the United States additional bases, deeper defense cooperation, and greater freedom of operation. Denmark would be more than happy if U.S. deploys its troops for regional security. So if security were the sole concern, the legal framework already exists. So why does Trump still want to take control of Greenland? Well, there are three main reasons. First, natural resources. Greenland holds vast, largely untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, oil, and gas. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, Greenland ranks 8th in the world for rare earth reserves, with an estimated 1.5 million tons, and it hosts 2 deposits among the largest on Earth. Many experts estimate that global demand for critical minerals could quadruple by 2040 as the world transitions toward energy technologies. Everything from electric vehicle batteries to wind turbines and solar panels depends on these materials. From his first day in office, Trump placed energy security at the center of his agenda, declaring energy emergencies, boosting domestic rare earth production, and strengthening resource alliances with countries like Australia and ASEAN nations. Seen through that lens, Greenland's minerals become strategically priceless. The second reason is the emergence of new Arctic shipping routes. Over the past 4 decades, the Arctic has warmed nearly 4 times faster than the global average. At the current pace, scientists project ice-free Arctic summers by mid-century, a shift with major consequences for trade and security. As Arctic ice retreats, new sea routes are becoming viable alternatives to traditional shipping lanes. Russia has already shipped record volumes of cargo along the northern sea route, and that number is expected to rise. China, meanwhile, is betting on Arctic routes to reduce its dependence on strategic choke points like the Malacca Strait, through which roughly 80% of its crude oil and natural gas imports pass. For Washington, the growing presence of Russian and Chinese vessels in the Arctic is a strategic concern. The third reason is more political. As I've talked to this in my first video, Trump's revival of the Monroe Doctrine, or what some aides jokingly call the Don Roe Doctrine, reflects an aggressive reassertion of American influence across the Western Hemisphere. During Trump's first term, he floated ideas ranging from taking control of Venezuela to acquiring Greenland. Now he's revisiting those ambitions. For Trump, this isn't just about territory. It's about power projection, symbolism, and legacy. He wants this to be written in books of history. In his version of Make America Great Again, visible strength matters, and Greenland represents strategic control on a global scale. Now just imagine, for a moment, that the United States moves forward with a plan to occupy Greenland. From a military standpoint, there is little doubt the U.S. would face minimal resistance in taking control of the island. But the real question isn't whether the United States could do it, it's what the long-term damage would be, and how such a move could permanently reshape European geopolitics. The first and most immediate fracture would appear inside the transatlantic security alliance itself. Denmark is a NATO member, and its prime minister has been clear about the stakes. In a public interview, Denmark's prime minister stated that if the United States were to militarily attack another NATO country, everything would stop, including NATO and the security framework that has existed since the end of the Second World War. Such a move would shatter decades of trust between the United States and its European allies. In the worst-case scenario, it could trigger a deep identity crisis within NATO itself, as the very country NATO has relied on for protection over the last 76 years would now be the one it would need protection from. Now facing United States uncertainty, and with Russia still looming as a strategic challenge, European nations would have little choice but to dramatically expand their own defense capabilities and deeper strategic engagement with Russia. Now, just think about this: Western governments spend the last 3 years sanctioning Russia, limiting their foreign presence by trying to isolate them, sanctioning Russian oil buyers. But a single geopolitical twist could ultimately force Europe back into strategic dialogue with the very country it sought to contain. This is where the geopolitical paradox emerges. In that scenario, Russia and China would emerge as the biggest winners. The message sent by a U.S. takeover of Greenland would be unmistakable. Powerful nations can justify territorial expansion under the banner of national security. That precedent would echo far beyond Europe. It would strengthen Russia's narrative in eastern Ukraine and embolden China's position on Taiwan. A single move in the Arctic could fundamentally alter the rules of global geopolitics, shifting the world away from alliance-based stability and toward raw power competition. So Greenland isn't just about territory. It's a test of alliances, sovereignty, and how far power can be justified in the name of security. Do you think the United States should push this far, or would the long-term costs be too high? If you found this explanation useful, you're welcome to like and subscribe. I'll be covering more straightforward explainers on geopolitics, history, and economics. Thanks for watching.